Awesome.
Okay, so we're both good to go. We're ready.
Excellent. Okay. Well, good morning, everybody. You were invited here today. We're talking about Enriched Academy. For those of you that don't know, we started offering this program the beginning of 2018. It's in our GE001, our GE123, and 124 classes. With new content that we're going to be launching soon, we wanted to show you today what the program is all about. Last week, the instructors had some new training on the new content and program that we will be launching in March. Today, I want you to have a look at how this is an added value for your students. It will be a huge advantage to their program. So I'm really excited to be joined today by Enriched Academy. And with that being said, I'd like to introduce you to Kevin McCarthy and Jay Seabrook.
Thank you. You want me to go first, Kev?
Yeah, you go ahead, Jay, then we'll jump right in. We know we only have about 30 minutes, so we will be as tight as we can with your time. So, Jay, you go ahead.
Awesome. So, hey, everybody, this is Jay Seabrook. I'm one of the co-founders of Enriched Academy, and, really looking forward to giving you a demo here for about 30 minutes. And so just so you know how this will go, we're going to take the first probably 10 minutes, 15. Just want to tell you the backstory on Enriched Academy. We know a lot of you are familiar with the content. We also know some of you are newer to it. So we'll just give you a little bit of the backstory on it. Then we want to actually show you the student portal and talk specifically about the courses and the new material that your students will have access to. And we're really excited about it. So for those of you on the line that have seen our material before and you've seen the videos, just so you know, over the last year, we've made a massive investment, like hundreds of thousands of dollars, basically, over $500,000 altogether, in a brand new and improved video series. And so everything's like that was there in the core program is still there, but we've just greatly enhanced it and we've added a lot of new material. So we're really excited to get your feedback once your students start to roll out on that new course. And again, we'll show you some of that. So Enriched Academy, for those of you that aren't that familiar with us, we've been doing financial education training specifically for Canadians now for about 17 years altogether. And we started doing it at a high school level way back when we were in our mid-20s, like the co-founders were in our mid-20s. And the reason that we did it was just because we realized how powerful a mentor is, and that we realized that it's a lot better to learn from someone else's mistakes than to learn from your own mistakes, especially when it comes to money. And again, like for us, we very fortunately started working directly with some people that helped us get started on our journey around money. And because of that, it got us very, a lot further ahead than we otherwise would have. So we just saw the power of this because it wasn't because of how smart we were or something like that. It was literally just learning this stuff young and making some slightly different decisions than our peers were. And as time went on, we got to really see the results of that. And so we like our mission is just to try to get this education to people as soon in life as possible. And to do it in a really fun, entertaining way, and to do it in a way that anybody can understand, right? And take the intimidation out of money as much as we can, and really try to show people that financial freedom, like in getting to a place of financial freedom, it's really possible for anybody. And when we say financial freedom, we mean where you don't need to work anymore unless you wanted to work, right? So it's not about not working anymore, but it's about how you get there where you can literally do what you love to do all the time. And how do you create a game plan to do that, and really take control of your money, so you feel that sense of power over it. Because we know there's a lot of people out there that almost feel like they're a victim when it comes to money. So how do you take the control back? And that's what this whole program's about. So I'm going to skip through some stuff pretty fast. We have some slides, so I'm just moving over to the slideshow here. And you can just see this is just a kind of collection of some of our clients that we're working with. And again, we've been doing this for Canadians now for 17 years and formally as Enriched Academy for about 10 years. And we've had over 150,000 Canadians educated through our program. This was the inception. This picture here kind of shows the inception of Enriched Academy as a brand. We were on the show Dragon's Den, going back in kind of early days Dragon's Den. So that we got on the show in 2012. We were at the time, it was a DVD box. You can see on the left there, that's like the old 4 iterations ago of the product. And now today it's evolved to an online course. I'm the guy on the right, and you can see I kind of look like the lights are on, but nobody's home, because that was the case. Yeah, I have to say, like, the Dragon's Den experience was like, I've watched the episode twice because literally it hurts my eyes to watch it. But we did get through that pitch well, and we ended up doing a deal with some of the dragons. All 5 dragons actually wanted in on the deal, which was cool. And the whole concept at that time was this: it was creating the dragons of tomorrow. We've since evolved because we initially were for younger audience, teenagers. Today we're now actually, most of our business is in the adult space, which is what this course is that your students will have access to. So I show this picture only because I like making fun of my business partner, Kevin. He's the guy on the left, and people see Kevin does a lot of speaking and he's on stage a lot. And people are like, man, I didn't think Jim Treliving was that short of a guy. I thought he was actually pretty tall, and that's why. So that never gets old for me. Anyways, so why Enriched Academy, and why did the Dragons, as an example, why did they want to get behind this? And here's why. They knew that the financial education that is out there right now is inadequate, right? And it wasn't that effective. And if you look at what is out there, it's typically really dry and boring, and it's not delivered in a fun way, right? And that's what we try to change. And they really saw the challenge. Like, and you look at this slide here, and this is a Canadian payroll study. They do it every year, and it's typically around half of Canadians. Sometimes it's been as high as 58, 59% of Canadians surveyed admit that they are paycheck to paycheck, which means if their income stopped, like if they had one check that they didn't get for work, they're immediately not able to make ends meet unless they have their lines of credit or credit cards, right? So it's pretty scary. That's for all Canadians. Half of us aren't saving anything at all, and we're literally living kind of hand over fist every single month. So you look at savings rates in Canada. So we used to save over 20% of what we made. So if we made $100, we used to save and invest equivalent of $20 of that. Today they've been down to as low as $2 about 10 years ago, but now we're only saving about $4 of what we make. And it's the trend of this that we find more concerning than anything else. You look at consumer debt is at an all-time high. So people have in Canada an average of $22,000 on credit card store cards, consumer debt, and then we have over $2 trillion, including like mortgages, in debt. And it's just escalated really, really quickly, especially the last 15, 20 years. And then again, like you look to the younger demographic, obviously money issues carry over in life, right? And they go beyond just being a young person and starting out. Like there's a lot of people, that are getting close to retirement age and they don't know how they're going to be able to do it, right? And we know that, but we feel like the challenge starts young. Because if you look at it, there's a lot of students that leave school with debt. Like over half of Canadian college university students are in debt, right, when they leave. And if you look at that, and you look at the average surveyed student leaving college university, and this question asked them, it said, now that you've graduated from college university, do you feel like you learned enough financially? And 84% indicate that they needed more education on this topic, right? Because it just isn't really taught. And we kind of hope that it's being taught at home typically, but mostly, again, most parents struggle with this too. So it often isn't being taught enough, right? So what we do in our course is this, so we start off, we're going to show you the actual back end here shortly in a couple of minutes. But the first thing that we cover is this money myths section. The reason that we do that is because we know that there's some limiting beliefs that stop people from even getting started down to look at their money, right? And we know that if you can't get over that, some people basically believe that because they haven't learned money before, or their parents didn't come from money, that, this isn't for me for that reason. we meet women sometimes and they'll say, hey, it's my husband's job to look after money. I don't do that. As an example, we see all kinds of things that will stop people right away from even looking at this topic. And just to show you one of the myths that we see, one thing that we see is the myth of, hey, investing, as an example, it's too risky, right? Like, it's scary to me. Like, I just don't feel confident with it. So people will turn their head off on this here. And just to give you an example of, again, to show you some of the material that we have. So this just shows this chart here shows the average stock market return every single year, right? And going all the way back to the beginning of basically stocks on Dow Jones Industrial Average. And you can see this slide because you want to look at, like, investing again as, is it something that's risky? What's interesting is if you look at all the years, 31% of the time the market is down, whereas the rest of the time the market is up. And this graph shows it really, really well. So some people, as an example, like if you look at by decade investing, it bounces around, and sometimes people will turn their mind off to something because it just sounds pretty scary. But if you look at the average return in investing just in stocks as one example, the average return over this period of time, you can see going back 110 years, has been about 8% return, right? Now, how does that really relate to money? Like, kind of a really grassroots level. So let's look at it here quickly. And if you look at the return that people get in a checking account, obviously it's not real strong. And let's say 100 years ago, someone put aside $100 for you 100 years ago. What would that $100 be worth today in each of these different areas? So if you look at in a checking account or under the mattress or in a safe or something, the cash is just sitting in a safety deposit box for 100 years. What is it worth today? Obviously the same thing. Now, if it's invested, at least in a savings account, that 1.5% grows the $100 over that period of time to $443. The challenge is inflation is always going against you. So the average inflation, let's call it 3%. It's a bit lower than that, but we'll use 3%. So what used to cost $100 would now cost you $1,900 today to buy the same thing that used to cost you $100 100 years ago. So what this just shows you is that your money is constantly, if it's just sitting around in savings accounts and stuff like that, it's literally it's diminishing in power all the time, right? Whereas if you had invested in something like bonds, which is actually very safe way to invest, you can see that $100 would have grown to $13,000 in real estate. So if you looked at across Canada as a homeowner, just by sitting and holding a home anywhere in Canada as an average, that $100 would have grown to $33,000 in value as a homeowner. That's before renting any part of your house. If you rent part of the house, or if you're a property investor, it goes up a lot. And then if you look at stocks, and this is a crazy example right here, because if you look at, we showed you real estate, so $100 would have grown to $33,000. And just with that 2% extra, check this out. So the $100 would have grown to $219,000, right, over that time period, which is crazy. You almost need to check the math on it, but it's right. So to us, like, there's a huge risk in at least not knowing the basics of this stuff, because this is going to affect every aspect of someone's life forever. There's no getting around it. It's not like a short-term thing. Money will affect people's life for as long as they are alive for, and taking the intimidation out of it is again, it's so important for people, especially when they're about to have an income increase, which most of your students, that's the case. They're coming to you, and it's the beauty of what you do. We think it's brilliant. Like, that fact that you're able to change people's lives in a way that they're able to walk out of your, in a relatively short period of time and double their income in some cases or more. Like, you're seeing that every day. So your students are at a brilliant time to get exposed to this information, because their earning power is about to go up. And what do most people tend to do with that extra money that they make? We just tend to spend it, right? It's like the lifestyle creep happens. So if you can get some of these lessons to people at a young age, and I'm running out of time here because we're compressing this I'm going to skip through this example. This just tells a Will Smith money story, because just making money isn't enough. Saving, investing is so important. You look at some stats that are out there. You look at NBA players who on average make like $3 million a year if you're in the NBA, and 60% of them are broke or under financial distress 5 years after leaving the NBA. 78% of NFL players, again, making millions of dollars, within 2 years, the money's gone. Major League Baseball players go bankrupt 4 times more than average. We see it all the time, but we'll see people that make $100,000 a year as a family, like as a household income, and they'll say to us, hey, we're struggling financially and we don't know what to do. And we'll say, hey, have you really looked at your spending? And sometimes they'll be like, you know what? It's not my spending. What I really need to do is I need to just earn more money. And if I can make 150 a year, then I would save and invest money. And then on the other side, we have somebody else like this, making $50,000 a year, living in the same town, city, and they're able to save like 5, 10, 15, 20% of what they make. We see it day in and day out. We see people making $500,000 a year and they spend $600,000 a year, right? So certainly, learning how the skill of making money, that's what you're doing at Sprout Shaw. Our job is to help them be more conscious of spending. So that's part of what we teach. One of the things that we teach as well is like the pitfalls of building wealth. And so this is understanding credit. And in the one of the courses, so we have a student loan course to teach your students about student loans. And we use this example, and this is a real life example of a student, because sometimes people think, like, we've seen all types of belief systems, right, around money. And some people we've seen that graduate from school, they think, you know what, if I miss a couple of payments, it's not really a big deal. It doesn't really impact me that much. I don't really care about my credit score too much. I'm not using my credit card that much or whatever. So they don't realize what the impact is, right? So this helps illustrate this piece of material right here. And what we did is we took a student who had graduated recently, and this person had basically been managing credit really well for a 5-year period of time. So they had one credit card. They never missed a payment for 5 years. And then they had their student loan, and they graduated, and they made regular payments for the first 2 years on their student loan, right? And they were like clockwork. So their credit score was really strong, so we teach all about credit scores, but a really solid credit score would be 816 for sure. Anything above 750 really. And so at 816, that's where this person was. And then Ben started missing payments each month. So the next 5 months, he stopped making his payments, right? So what happened with his credit score? We were curious about this. We created this data because no one else out there has data like this. We used one of our partners to create it. But you can see in a 5-month period, his credit score went from 816, which is really strong, really quickly down to 363. So it took him 5 years to build up this great credit score, 5 months to totally destroy it. And it would take to build it back up again would be about 2.5, 3 years to build it back up anywhere close to that 816, just from messing up for a few months, right? Now, what does that do? So again, you can see like excellent and kind of the way the credit grade works. And we teach more on this obviously in the course. I'm kind of skimming over it. But you can see what happened to his credit score if you look at it from a grading standpoint. And financially, if you take a $25,000 car loan, which is your average priced car, and we see like people that are younger than that are getting those types of car loans, paid out over 5 years, for someone with good credit, they would pay an extra $3,000 in interest. So that left example, on the right, that shows bad credit. So they would pay about $10,000 more for the same car that someone with good credit would have paid for, right? And if you look at the money lost, and then if they had invested that same money over a 20-year period, that's the true loss, that $46,000, right? It's crazy. If you look at it on a house, and we've seen people in this situation. So if you look at a $400,000 mortgage with a 25-year time period to pay it off, amortized on 25 years. So on a 3.9% mortgage, as an example, you would pay $226,000 in interest during the life of that mortgage. with bad credit, and we've seen people stuck in this bad credit situation for years and years and years, they would essentially pay $421,000 more for the same house. It's crazy. And if you look at that money invested, obviously it's unbelievable. So wanted to give you guys just a sampling of the content, and now Kevin is going to take over. And Kev, I think I might need to make you the presenter.
Sure, go ahead, Jay.
Yeah, and he's going to show you where, like the student view, and then we'll talk a bit more about some of the courses.
So everyone should be able to see my screen now. I'm going to be logging into the back end of the course. What Jay kind of went over was some of the content, and obviously I'm not going to go through it all, but for those that haven't seen, this is our back end. This is what the student sees when they log in. The bulk of what they'll use is right here, the videos. There's a financial health score that people can go through to kind of just get a sense of where they're at health-wise or financially health-wise. And there's a full workbook that the students get that's 300 pages that follows along with the course curriculum that's very helpful for giving additional resources. So just because I know we're a little tight for time, I'm going to just show you basically an outline of what courses and what they get in the package, in the program. The way we've structured it, so there's 5 core courses that the student has to complete before they get their certificate and they've finished the course. But there's also a number of bonus courses. There's actually 8 bonus courses that they'll have access to once they've completed. So I'm going to walk you through each one of these just very briefly, so you'll have a sense when you're talking to potential students or incoming students of what they're actually getting in this course. So Jay's talked about Money Myths already. So Money Myths is about a 40-minute course, and again, as Jay mentioned, breaking down kind of beliefs, incorrect beliefs people may have about money and why they couldn't start saving, that sort of thing. The second course kind of builds on that. Once those kind of myths have been broken down, we explain the basics of credit. So we get into, as Jay mentioned, what's a credit score? Why does that matter? What are the consequences of having a good credit score, bad credit score? What's a credit card? And then we actually just break down what's a credit card statement. So understanding the fundamentals of credit and the basics of the importance of having good credit is what's really covered here in course 2. Course 3 is all about student loans. So I know a number of your students will have student loans, and we've broken this course into 2 sections. One is kind of while they're in school, and we talked about the benefits of, maybe even starting to pay off their student loan, make payments if they can beforehand. But we talked about the consequences, that Ben Smith example that Jay just gave, on the consequences of not paying off their student loan. Then we get into kind of the, some mistakes many students make with student loans, and then giving concrete steps to paying it down, best practices for paying it down. So it's a pretty concrete course focused on student loans, which I know is one of the priorities and real interest in focus for Shaw to have this course here. Where Are You Today is course number 4, and this gets into savings and budgeting, and also introduces the concept of net worth tracking, so tracking your net worth over time. So very popular course, and students, I think anyone can benefit from budgeting and saving. The last kind of required course is Career Mastery, and this is a combination of courses that were in our previous edition around branding, around goal setting. We've got interviews here with experts from Olympic athletes, that sort of thing, all around goal setting, that sort of thing. So those are the 5 kind of fundamental courses a student needs to complete. Once they've completed these, they get a certificate. If they try and download it early, they get this warning saying, nice try, you've actually got to finish the course to get that certificate. The other courses are a bit more detail, a bit more complex. They're still relevant to students, but I'll quickly just cover those just so you're aware. So beginner stock market works talks about compound interest, the power of compound interest. And then we get into kind of just breaking down and understanding the stock market over these next two courses. The tax-free savings account and RRSP just explains the difference between those two government-sponsored tax savings accounts. Investment properties is a real primer and kind of basic overview of how to get into investment properties. We actually have a 15-year-old who's interviewed in this course, really to inspire people, because he's actually got two investment properties. Lives in London, Ontario, bought these properties. He's now making money, cash flowing these properties, and so he's in there really just to demonstrate that anyone can do this. It's not rocket science. You just have to understand kind of language of money. Next two courses, retirement planning. We've explained kind of the interest. If folks are on that path, they don't even have to be on that path soon, and most students aren't. But just to know that if you start early, it's a lot easier. And this course here, the industry of financial advice, is really about mutual funds, understanding the fees you pay for mutual funds, the fees you pay for financial advisors. And the last two courses are pretty more complex for most Canadians, probably most students, but there'll be some students that will be interested. Leveraging equity. So if you've got a home, how can you leverage that equity in the house? And private lending is another way that some people are making money using the equity in their house. So that's a very quick overview. Maybe I'll just click into one of the courses just so you see it. It's all video based, as Jay mentioned. The videos are structured into kind of bite-sized chunks, so the student can come in and out. And so a 40-minute full course is broken up into 6 different sections. At the end of each section, they've got a course or a test, a quiz that they have to take. So I'm just conscious of time. I think we are kind of at the end of the allotted time. I may open it up for questions if anyone has, but this is just a quick overview. We're very excited about the opportunity. The feedback from students has been fantastic. This new course, we're excited. I think we're going to be launching that in March for all the new students coming in. And the final thing I would just mention, in addition to these courses, we also have live events. And so we've got a live event coming up in Vancouver on April the 10th. It's kind of these events typically people pay $400, $500 to come to for the full day. But as part of our agreement with Sprott Shaw, staff are allowed to come for free of charge. And so that's something you can coordinate through Crystal, can coordinate through others. But if there are those that want to come, it's a real good it's a real good chance to really experience our training, and it may well help many of you as kind of admissions advisors to really understand the course beyond this kind of quick overview that we've done here. So I think I'll leave it there. I just after 10:30 now. Crystal, do you have any questions, or does anybody on the line have any questions? Hopefully, Crystal had some challenges earlier on speaking. So, I don't know, Jay, is there anything else that you wanted to add?
No, I just say, guys, we genuinely are excited to work with you, and we rolled out basically last year with you guys, and I think you're going to really find this new course super powerful. But that said, we're constantly trying to improve it and enhance it. So please let us know, your feedback, and we can't wait to hear from at the instructor level as well how it's going and getting feedback. And then lastly, I really hope that some of you will take us up on the offer to come to one of our live events, because we go deep on all these topics. We make it a really fun day, but it'll give you a chance to be exposed to this content, yourself. And ideally, this is affecting yourself as well, and you're seeing some positive benefits from this. We know if you come to our one-day event, it will absolutely enhance, your future financial situation. So I really hope that you can join us at one of those.
Yeah. So, and I just spoke with Crystal. She's in the boardroom and can't call in. So the other update she just wanted me to give everyone is she will be sending around updates as the new course is rolled out and launched for everybody in March. So you should look for those. So those updates will be coming as we roll this out. So I think that's it. We'd encourage anyone that wanted to come to come on April the 10th. You can coordinate that through Crystal. And if there are any
we also
questions,
have Kelowna on the 9th as well.
Yeah, that too. Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
And I think there are people already coming to the Victoria event, which is actually next Tuesday. So I think everyone.
Awesome. Can't wait to see you. If you're on the line, can't wait to meet you.
So that's great. Everyone can, if there are questions after this, you can send us an email. This will be taped and will be sent around. So for those that can't make it, they can listen to it there. So thanks everyone for your time. We're very excited about the new course and rolling this all out for your students.
Thanks, everybody.
Okay. Bye.